where they go to submit the assignment, and that's where it actually ends up in CodeGrade.
Which is really nice, so students don't have to like go to some outside link and mess with logging into something. They just click that button and it's automatically integrated with their Canvas account.
Yeah, and then I don't think I showed it, but the next window, of course, is the usual drag and drop, or click the file, dialog, but the usual stuff. I mean, nothing. It's a seamless transition, so they don't care.
Yep, pretty much.
All right. So we're talking 50 to 60 students per section. This
Large
is not
classes.
our desire. Our desire is like less than half of that, but
You'll be getting the same.
yeah, for sure. We've got 8 to 10 projects, 8 to 12 projects per course per semester. That's a pretty heavy load. We're serious. I mean, if they're going to be CS majors, they're going to learn. The only way to learn is to actually do it. We have to remind them of this. They do not see it that way necessarily. But we're also doing, the resubmission stuff. I mean, pretty typical. Although we've got it limited to every 5 minutes, just to keep it under control.
Because CodeGrade will automatically grade their assignment within a few minutes, and then the students can go back and see what they did wrong, and if they want to, they can fix what they did wrong to get a better grade.
Which we encourage them to do strongly. I mean, we push them really hard to do that. And we have the 24-hour late rule, so that's 2% per hour, and then after 24 hours, just give it up. Move on to the next one, because there's always a next one, so that's what we keep reminding them. Don't kill yourself on old ones.
Exactly.
I'm sure you've never heard that before. All right, something else that we do, and this is a requirement locally, it's not a requirement of the system, either CodeGrade or Canvas, but we want our TAs to provide positive feedback on every single submission. Again, that's our requirement, not the system's. Even if that comment is nothing more than good job. And in fact, most of them, particularly in the beginning, that is a comment.
Yeah, we definitely see like a ceiling effect with the CodeGrade assignments where many students, sometimes even like half of the students will get like 100% and they just get a good job, so.
Yeah, but we want that feedback, just out of principle, again, not a requirement of the system, just ours. But as appropriate, we can, and in fact do line-by-line comments.
Absolutely.
Here's one example. This is from my course. Like one of the courses that I teach is a little more senior class for assembly language. Systems programming keeps them busy. But here's an example of where we are providing a specific line-by-line comment where the problem is and what the solution, correction, blah, blah, blah. And of course that depends on the language, depends on the program, depends on the assignment, but the ability to do that is pretty huge.
And actually you see towards the bottom there's like click to start a new thread. That's kind of nice because then the students are able to have a dialogue with their instructor or their TA about what might need to go in there, because TAs do see any comments that get added inside of here.
But given those student counts, hand grading 500 assignments times 12 projects a semester is just not an option. It just cannot be done. I used to have bash scripts to write them, and not at these numbers, it's just not an option.
Yeah.
So it's either that or just not make the assignment, and that's horrible, that's worse.
Yeah, gotta have practice somewhere.
As part of our CS1 class, there is a lab required that every single student has to sign up for. So in addition to the regular class, they're also in the lab. It's so bad that we have a lab coordinator.
And in that lab, they have 20 labs that they do over the semester. There's 2 every week. So 20 labs times 1,000 students is 20,000 submissions. So again, we could be very busy if we didn't have CodeGrade.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's not an option. And these aren't like hard they're just little things aimed at helping people on a specific topic.
Very directed at what they were learning during the week. So there's one due on Wednesday that is about what they learned in the first half of the week, and there's one due on Friday, which is about what they learned in the second half of the week. We don't really conflate it with other topics. So.
So,
I have actually done some research on CodeGrade. And in fall 21, we wanted to see how CodeGrade compared to human-based grading. We wanted to focus on seeing if it was fair and consistent, and that it at least did no harm to our students using this tool. So again, we give our students 2 programming labs each and every week, and I divided them into 2 groups. Group A, Group B, it was about 50% in each class. I did have to have consent through the IRB from each student that wanted to be included in this in order to run this assignment. So it wasn't perfectly 50%. It's not really easy in Canvas to divide a class. So I divided up sections. So it was near 50%, but not perfectly. And I started off by giving half the students CodeGrade, the other half of the students didn't have CodeGrade for the first week. And what I measured was, well, what are their grades on this? And then the next week, I flopped them. So the other group had their automated grading, and then the B group had manual grading now. So that continued throughout the entire semester, swapping between the 2 groups, between the 10 weeks and the 20 labs. This was only done in our labs, so it's not really something that I can generalize off to an actual lecture class. At the time I ran this, there wasn't quizzes inside of CodeGrade, which there is now, so I couldn't really put CodeGrade into an exam and test it, but now that they have quizzes in CodeGrade, I can do that if I would like to in the future. And doing this, you can see there's a slight boost. So these means that you see up there, that is just the average across the automated manual for the entire semester. You can see we did already have high scoring at a 95% with the manual grading, and we kind of got a ceiling effect with the automated grading. And really what I would say that's mostly the issue of is that we only did it in the labs. The labs are very short. It's very easy for the students to complete the labs. So again, if I would have done it in the actual class, I would expect there to be a bit of a larger gap between those means. But you can see the standard deviation between grades is much lower between the automated grading, which is wonderful because my suspicion is that, you know, every now and then a manual grader, after grading 20, 30 assignments, gets a little fatigued and maybe doesn't grade things as properly as he would. So that's a really nice thing about CodeGrade, is that it kind of cuts out that ambiguity. I ran a repeated measures ANOVA with a greenhouse Geyser effect on this data, and that is what these values there are, that F value of 6.249 and the P value that's at 0.001, less than it. That basically says that there was a large variation between the means each week throughout the semester, and the p-value allows us to accept that this isn't something by chance and that we can reject the null hypothesis. And our effect size of a 0.135 shows that this had a medium effect on our students. So I think CodeGrade does pretty good. It really lowers the cost of grading. Instead of having to pay a large amount of TAs to go out and grade assignments, now we can pay the same amount of TAs to focus on helping the students, which is what they really want to be there doing, which is a really, really nice thing about CodeGrade.
Yeah, we have a very limited number of TAs, so if they're grading, they are not helping students. So the less time they spend grading, the more time they can help students. Another advantage of the lab was that it was all you.
All me.
Which means that if we'd done the classes, there were 4 or 5 different instructors, and that has a potential for impacting the results.
Absolutely.
But the lab was all Alex, so there was always, no matter what, whether it was hand graded or not, it was always the same instructor, always the same stuff.
Always the same rules.
So it's a little bit more rigorous. the growth in the CS department at UNLV has been significant, and I just don't know how we would have done it without. I mean, if we wouldn't have had that tool, we would have ended up giving less programming assignments.
Yep, and we wouldn't be able to do 20 labs over the semester, which is kind of excessive in a student's mind, but it's needed because these students are very new to programming, and most of them, programming is something not anywhere near what they do in their major.
Yeah, that's one of the things our students come in. We have a large number of underrepresented groups. We have a large number of economic need students. And that's part of where our diversity comes from. So that means that so many coming in that are interested in computer science have no background.
Absolutely none. Don't even know what a file on a computer is when they come into class sometimes.
It's gotten worse too. I mean, we used to say, go to your downloads folder and check the folder, and people go, where's my downloads folder? It did not used to happen, so that's been
Everybody's addicted to these things now.
Right, it's like, what app is that? So
We're gonna go download a terminal on my phone.
But I think in order for them to be effective CS majors, they have to program. And the only way to do that is to program. And
Absolutely.
that's the automated grading is huge. I mean, just unworkable if you didn't have it. One of the other things that I've noticed, especially I do a little more of the higher division courses, and I've noticed that I've had TAs or students come and say, TA doesn't like me. That's why I got a low score. But that's one of the huge things with the automated, with CodeGrade is that it is consistent. Extremely
Absolutely.
so. We've got the studies to prove it, but you know, I don't hear that hardly. And we have absolutely it's seen increased retention and progression rates. We have done a number of other things, so we can't tie it all to this, but we are certain that this is absolutely part of it. Because that instant feedback is what the main part of it that is driving the retention and progression. They can see they got something wrong, they can fix it, they can ask a TA, the TA now has time to help them. So it has been very positive for us. We've done a number of other things as well, but I think this is one of the big drivers of